All right, Kaley, I'm taking a look now at your assignment from week 5, your project draft. So you've chosen to write yours in APA, which looks very good. I am asking everybody to come up with a more interesting, like more creative title for your final project next week in week 7. So you'll want to kind of maybe work on that a little bit, rework your title into something a little bit more related to what you're writing about. And let's go on to page 2 here. So let's see. Your introduction looks good, short and sweet. Most of us deal with stress on the daily. Okay, so you want to avoid using that kind of like street language, like on the daily, right? That's kind of like street lingo. So you don't want to say that. You want to write that more professional sounding. Whether it's school, work, family, or you need to add an or in there, or trying to stay composed all at once. When life becomes overwhelming, it's easy to forget how taking care of ourselves is slowing down. And slowing down makes a huge difference. In the article, Take a Break, so that's good hook, good. In the article, Take a Break by Nicole Pelusi, she talks about how important it is to take time for yourself and how stress can affect our health. Pelusi shares ideas about stress management and finding life balance when life becomes overwhelming. She argues that everyone needs to take a break, and it is essential to achieve work-life balance and managing stress. Although she provides tips about self-care in the article, is general and doesn't provide enough real-life examples nor deeper guidance. Okay, so good thesis statement. Good job. Your introduction is good overall. Just that little bit of what you need to fix there on that first sentence is all. Now, what we look for in here, of course, is the topic, and you do discuss the topic. Topic is dealing with stress, right? So you allude to that right away. The genre, I can tell that by your use of the verb argues here, so it's argumentative. You're analyzing her article, and you're saying that her article is a argumentative type of paper, informative, argumentative. So that's okay. Purpose. Of course, you cover the purpose there in the thesis statement, so that's good. Your audience. Now, that's what we need to do. We do need to have your audience narrowed down to a specific group. Okay, so you want to actually allude to who you're writing this to in here, and it should not be the same audience that Nicole Pelusi had. It should be um, a a different audience that you chose back in week 4 for your first audience, or maybe even back in week 3. Um, so you want to make sure that you address that and in the introduction, preferably. Um, so that seems to be missing a little bit there. So a little bit off on that one. This should be double spaced just like everything else. So make sure you fix this excess spacing here and make it double spaced. Also, this is tabbed in too far. Should be right about here. All right. To begin with, Nicole Pelusi. Oh, okay. Historical context. Elizabeth deal with this. I don't think there's not a clear reference here to the historical or cultural context. For to see what I'm talking about with that, take a look at the exemplar. If you look at the exemplar here, let me bring it up real quick. This is actually this is the right one. Notice it tells you in here where the historical culture context is identified. So here it's identified by this year that they introduce with. So notice how it tells you where the topic is. That's right here. And then audience, purpose, and subject are all identified within this paragraph or this portion, this couple sentences. And so notice how that tells you what to do that's why I tell you all that this is so important. You really have to use the exemplars because they really show you exactly what kind of stuff you should be doing in your paper. Okay, so audience is restated. So notice here it says focusing on workers who are competing with AI technology, right? So workers slash earners. So the audience is is a little bit. It's not as specific as you might want to go, but it does tell you, allude to what the audience is. So that's what you want to do, is you want to make sure that you are stating. Now, don't state it. Just don't state it like a list of things that you put into a paragraph form. In other words, don't say something like, "The historical context is this. The cultural context is that. My audience is this." You don't want to say it like that, because that's too. That's just not a good way of writing an essay. Right. So you're doing fine so far in the way you're writing this and putting things together, but you want to make sure you include that purpose and audience, make it clear who your audience is, and also make sure you allude to the historical and cultural context. Your core idea, I think, is covered by your thesis statement as well. So that's okay. Now we get to the body. This is where I'm looking for details and evidence. So, yeah, so see, this is where the tabbing should be in just one tab. The rest of them looks like you've tabbed in twice, so you just need to tab in once. All right, to begin with, Pelosi focuses on the topic of stress and how. Now, remember, you want to, since you're doing this in APA, you want to make sure that you, whenever you cite Pelosi, you put, right after her name, you put the year in parentheses. So you need to make sure you include that every time you mention her name. Put, when you're referring to her article, you want to put, or like when you're introducing the article here, you want to put 20, whatever it is. I forget what year hers was. Um, so primarily when you're actually citing something is when you want to make sure you include that year. Okay, so let's see. Everyone should take breaks. Yeah, see, you're basically writing to everyone, and that's obviously not what we want. We want your audience needs to be specifically a specific group of people, different from what she focused on. Her article's written like a short health piece, simple and straightforward. It feels like it was written for people who might be overwhelmed. Purpose is to encourage readers to slow down and understand that stress is total. Okay, so you have good stuff here to kind of introduce what she's doing, but I am not seeing any sources integrated yet. Here you talk about when it was written. You could say that this alludes to the um, historical and cultural context, but it'd be better to have that come a little earlier, like either right in the introduction or maybe the first thing that you talk about in the body. Somewhere early on, you should be providing that rather than in the body of the paper. Okay. Now, you say that she writes for a wide range, but I'm not really seeing anything where you talk about who your specific audience is. So remember, you're writing to a specific audience, telling them why they should also consider what Pelosi has to say in her article. Okay, make sure you understand that you're analyzing her article for a different audience, and it should be specific. So you want to pick a specific group of people to write this to, okay, and make it clear that you're addressing that audience. The main idea Pelosi tries to make, it does actually, now that I'm looking at the body, it does seem like you're almost writing toward these, kind of like you're trying to address these different things. Because here you say the audiences, here you say the subject, here you say it was written for. So that feels like you're trying to cover the historical cultural just by in a single statement here, and that's kind of what I was saying you don't want to do. You want to write your paper the way the exemplar shows you how to write it. You don't want to write it you don't want to write to basically just answer the rubric questions or points. You want to write it in as an essay that happens to do those things, okay, within it. So again, the exemplar is what you really have to make sure you use, and it's because it's vital. So you are kind of doing that. You're kind of providing, you're just basically going down through essentially what you're doing is you're creating a list of answers to each one of these rubric items, and then just put them in the paragraph form. and that's really not what you want to do. Here you provide talk about details, and you provide an example. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for 2, 3, 4 examples and source integrations and stuff throughout the paper. So the exemplar is really what I'm going to stress, like I'm stressing to a lot of students, and always have to stress, is the exemplar is the most important thing. You've got to use the exemplar first, write using the exemplar, and then and I even tell you this in my earlier information to help guide you all, that you should be writing to the exemplar, and then after you're done writing, before you turn it in, you simply check it against the rubric to make sure you've got all those things in there, covered in there. But you should not be writing to simply answer these prompts or answer these items. Okay, so that's going to be a big issue you need to fix to make sure this is better for that final project. Your references should be on a new page down here to the next page. So this is page 3. You'd want to move down to page 4 to put your references down there. And also make sure, see if there's a URL that should be here. If not, that's okay, but there might need to be a URL here. So fix that, and then make sure you revise it and edit it and everything so that you have the correct paper here for part 1 of the project in week 7. Okay. As always, if you have questions or need help with any of this stuff, let me know.